Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a deep breath together. Now, bring your awareness to your heart, not just the physical organ, but the space where your intuition lives, where truth whispers even when the mind is confused. We've all been there, questioning how someone truly feels about us, wondering if it's real, if it's deep, if it's love, or if we're just dreaming. But the truth is, when someone is falling for you, truly, deeply, perhaps even more than they consciously realize, their body knows it before their brain does. Today, I want to illuminate 5 unconscious signs that a man may be more in love with you than even he realizes. Because love, real love, begins beyond words, in the subconscious patterns, the micro-decisions, the energy that moves through us before thought catches up. 1. He remembers the details you forgot. You told him the subconscious mind records everything. When someone is deeply emotionally connected to you, their attention expands around you. If he recalls the most obscure things, how you like your coffee, the name of your childhood dog, or a story you told once in passing, that's not just memory. That's emotional imprinting. His brain is rewiring around you, even if he doesn't understand why yet. 2. He moves toward you during stress, not a way most of us, when overwhelmed, revert to old survival habits, withdrawing, distracting, numbing. But if, in moments of stress, he finds himself wanting to hear your voice, be near you, or even just text you, that's not logical. That's biological attachment forming. His nervous system is unconsciously labeling you as safety, as home. 3. His body language softens in your presence. Forget the words. Watch the micro-expressions. Does his posture ease when you're near? Do his shoulders relax? Do his eyes dilate when he sees you, even briefly? These are unconscious physiological responses governed by the autonomic nervous system. The body speaks what the mind resists. And often love appears first in the biology before the man even admits it to himself. 4. He reflects your energy without realizing it. This is called limbic resonance, when 2 nervous systems begin to mirror each other. If you're calm and he becomes calm, if you laugh and he lights up, if your energy shifts and he picks it up without knowing why, that's not just empathy. That's deep emotional entrainment. He is tuned into you at a frequency he doesn't fully understand. 5. He invests in your joy, not just your time. This is one of the most powerful signs. When a man starts caring about your joy, your purpose, your dreams, your peace, not because he's trying to impress you, but because it genuinely matters to him, that's when love has moved past ego and into the soul. That kind of love is felt, not declared. It's subtle, it's quiet, and it's real. So here's the truth. He may not have said it yet. He may not even know it yet. But if these signs are showing up, love is already growing in him. In the unconscious, in the body, in the field. And maybe, just maybe, love is not something we fall into. Maybe it's something that awakens in us when we finally feel safe enough to stop hiding from ourselves. Thank you. When someone is deeply drawn to you, often before their conscious mind catches up, their attention begins to narrow in on the details of your presence. This isn't merely about listening, it's about imprinting. The subconscious mind is always scanning for emotional significance, and when a person is beginning to fall in love, especially unknowingly, their brain starts storing information about you in ways they don't even realize. This is why he remembers the small things you may have forgotten you even said. The way you like your tea, the story you told about your trip to the mountains 3 years ago, the fact that your favorite color changes with the seasons. To him, these aren't just facts. They've become emotionally charged pieces of you, and his mind is registering them because, at a deeper level, he already values your world as part of his. What's fascinating is that this kind of recall doesn't happen because of deliberate effort. It's not that he's trying to impress you or earn points. It happens because his subconscious is already forming attachment pathways, and anything that pertains to you begins to light up his neural map. In other words, you're becoming neurologically significant to him. When we form emotional bonds, our brains shift from abstract observation to internalized emotional processing. That means that your stories, your preferences, your little quirks don't just pass through his awareness. They stick. Not in the surface-level memory banks, but in the emotionally coded circuits of the subconscious. This is why you may notice him bringing up something from a conversation you don't even remember having, or referencing a topic you shared weeks ago with perfect clarity. That's not just attentiveness. That's emotional resonance working below the threshold of conscious intent. His subconscious mind is tracking the emotional weight of your presence and archiving it because something in him already recognizes your importance. In fact, the more emotionally safe he feels around you, the more open his brain becomes to these deeper recordings. His system has started to orient around you, and that's not a choice he made. That's a reflection of an internal shift already underway, one that suggests his heart is leading the way before his thoughts have had time to catch up. When someone is falling in love, especially before they consciously realize it, their instincts begin to override their usual emotional patterns. One of the clearest unconscious signs of this is how they respond under stress. Most people, when overwhelmed or emotionally taxed, revert to coping mechanisms that involve retreat, distraction, or isolation. They may seek solitude, lose themselves in work, or shut down emotionally to regain control. But when a man finds himself instinctively reaching out to you during these moments, without understanding why, that is a deeper signal. His nervous system has begun to associate you with regulation, with grounding, with emotional safety. This isn't about needing you to fix his problems or offer solutions. It's about something more subtle and profound, the felt sense that your presence soothes him. Even the sound of your voice, or the way you listen, begins to calm his system. You may notice him texting you not just during happy moments, but in between meetings, late at night, or when life feels heavy. He might call you when he's uncertain, not for advice, but just to be close to your energy. This unconscious seeking is a reflection of internal attachment forming, where your presence becomes not just desired, but necessary in times of inner chaos. The human body is wired to seek connection in order to calm the stress response. When a man turns to you during emotional discomfort, it indicates that his subconscious mind has begun assigning you the role of a safe harbor. This happens even if his conscious mind hasn't yet verbalized it or made sense of it. His behavior shifts without him trying. He might not even realize why he wants to hear from you, why he feels better after talking to you, or why he finds himself wanting to be near you when life feels off balance. That's not rational, it's biological. What's important to understand is that this isn't the same as dependency. It's the earliest sign of emotional trust. The subconscious drives him toward what feels stable, nourishing, and emotionally consistent. And if you find him instinctively choosing your presence when his guard is down or when he's emotionally stretched, it's not by accident. His system is beginning to rewire around the experience of connection with you as a stabilizing force. Before we speak, before we act, our bodies are already in motion, expressing emotions our conscious minds haven't yet processed. Body language is a silent confession. And when someone is developing deep, unconscious love, their physiology often reveals it far earlier than their words do. One of the most telling signs is how a man's body softens around you. This is not a performance or conscious attempt to appear relaxed. It's an automatic nervous system response to feeling emotionally safe and deeply connected. You might notice that when he's near you, his shoulders drop, his breathing slows, and his overall presence becomes more grounded. These are all signs that his body feels unguarded and receptive in your presence. When we're around someone we trust and care for, the body often shifts out of a sympathetic stress state and into a parasympathetic one, the calm, connected, healing mode of the nervous system. He may not be aware of this change, but you'll feel it. His voice might become softer, his gestures more open, his eye contact longer and more vulnerable. His facial expressions become warmer, his posture less rigid. These are signs that you're becoming a kind of emotional reset point for him. A place his body can exhale without needing to perform or protect itself. Sometimes this softness appears in moments when he doesn't even realize you're watching. Maybe he's had a tense day and you walk into the room, and something shifts. His body, without thinking, releases tension. There's a kind of unspoken surrender in how he sits near you, how he leans in slightly, how his body orients toward yours. Even in silence, his physical presence begins to reflect comfort and ease, like being around you is a return to something familiar and peaceful. This kind of unconscious body language also shows up in micro movements. The way he mirrors your gestures without realizing, how he leans closer when you speak, how he turns his torso in your direction even in a crowded space. These cues aren't random. They are reflections of emotional resonance, indications that his subconscious feels drawn to you on a level deeper than logic. And because the body doesn't lie, especially when emotions run deep, these subtle shifts are often the truest indicators of a connection that's forming beneath the surface of his awareness. When two people are emotionally connected, their nervous systems begin to communicate in ways that go beyond words. This phenomenon is often referred to as limbic resonance, a kind of emotional tuning where one person's internal state begins to influence and reflect the other's. If you notice that a man tends to mirror your mood or pick up on your emotional shifts without you saying a word, that's not coincidence or surface-level empathy. It's a sign that, at a subconscious level, his emotional system is syncing with yours. This doesn't happen with just anyone. It only occurs when a deep emotional connection is being formed. For example, if you walk into the room feeling low, and his energy subtly drops to meet you there, not to mimic your sadness, but to attune to it. That's limbic resonance in action. He might not understand why his own mood suddenly shifts, but his body and subconscious are responding to your state. The same is true when you're joyful or playful. He lights up without thinking, matching your tone and tempo without effort. This kind of reflection isn't forced. It's fluid, and often he doesn't even realize he's doing it. What's powerful about this is that his internal landscape is being influenced by your presence. His subconscious is learning to prioritize your energy, track your emotions, and adjust to maintain harmony. This is a nonverbal form of emotional intimacy, and it usually precedes any verbal declaration of love. That's the nervous system's way of bonding, feeling into another person's experience and unconsciously adapting in response. His desire to see you happy isn't just thoughtful, it's biological. His internal state begins to elevate when you're smiling, and it grounds when you're calm. You may also see this play out in physical gestures. He may mirror your body language. The way you tilt your head, cross your legs or hands. He might unconsciously match your speech rhythm or adopt similar phrases you use. These patterns are deeply embedded in the way human beings form attachment. He's not mimicking you consciously. Rather, his brain is aligning itself with yours because it perceives you as emotionally significant. His subconscious is beginning to build a shared emotional rhythm, one that allows for closeness without needing to constantly explain or understand. When a man begins to fall for someone more deeply than he realizes, his focus shifts from simply spending time with that person to actively investing in their happiness. This is not always dramatic or overt. It can be subtle, often unconscious, and yet profoundly telling. You might notice that he starts taking a genuine interest in the things that bring you joy, not because he feels obligated, but because your happiness has started to affect his internal world. It matters to him that you're fulfilled, not just in the relationship, but in life. This shift is often quiet. He might ask about your goals, your passions, or the small things that light you up. Maybe he remembers that you mentioned wanting to learn something new or revisit a forgotten dream, and then he brings it up later. Not to impress you, but because he truly wants to see you thrive. This isn't about him trying to be the center of your world. On the contrary, it's a sign that he's beginning to see you as a whole, autonomous being, and your joy becomes part of what fuels his own emotional connection. It may show up in small acts, sending you something that made him think of your passion, encouraging you to pursue something you've put on hold, or simply holding space for your creative process without judgment. These are moments when his behavior begins to align not just with romantic attraction, but with something more selfless. He may not be fully aware of why he's doing it, but his subconscious is leaning toward contribution, toward nurturing, not possessing. The remarkable thing is that this form of emotional investment often precedes verbal admissions of love. He might not say he loves you, or even realize he's falling for you, but he's already acting from a place of connection that goes deeper than flirtation or convenience. He becomes protective of your peace, curious about your thoughts, and subtly driven to support your growth. It becomes less about how much time he spends with you and more about how he can make the time mean something. These unconscious investments in your joy are some of the most reliable indicators that his heart is already involved. Not through grand declarations, but through consistent, quiet alignment with your well-being as a natural priority in his life. There is a difference between someone being physically present with you and someone being emotionally attuned to you. One of the most overlooked yet powerful signs that a man is more in love with you than he realizes is how frequently you show up in his internal world without him even trying. You may start to notice that he brings up things you haven't talked about in a while or references conversations that seemed insignificant at the time. This isn't about surface memory or trying to impress you. It's about emotional imprinting. His subconscious is carrying pieces of you throughout his day, and you're becoming part of the fabric of his internal dialogue. This can manifest in unexpected ways. He might hear a song and instinctively think of you. He might see something while running errands and feel compelled to share it with you later. These aren't strategic choices. They're emotional triggers that reflect how deeply your presence is embedded in his psyche. You're not just a part of his schedule, you've become part of his internal atmosphere. Sometimes he may even start using your language, quoting phrases you often say, or adopting certain rhythms in conversation that mirror yours. This isn't imitation. It's subconscious assimilation, a form of emotional closeness where your identity is gently blending into his sense of self. This kind of bonding bypasses conscious thought. It's not a decision he made. It's something that happens when emotional connection is real and growing, even if he hasn't articulated it to himself yet. You may also find that he starts sharing things with you that he wouldn't normally reveal. His guard drops, not because he's planning to be vulnerable, but because he feels an intuitive safety around you. The emotional imprint you've left isn't just in his memory. It's in his nervous system, telling him that you're someone he can open up to without fear. He begins to reflect you in the way he speaks, in the way he processes his emotions, and in how he views the world. His inner life starts to shift, slowly and silently, in your direction. Energy doesn't lie. While words can be carefully chosen and actions can be deliberate, a person's energetic presence often reveals what their conscious mind hasn't yet acknowledged. When a man is unconsciously falling in love, his energy begins to shift in subtle but undeniable ways when he's around you. You may notice this in how he shows up differently in your space than he does with others. There's a certain calm, or a heightened alertness, or a magnetic pull in his presence that doesn't need explanation. It's not what he says, it's how it feels to be near him. He may seem more present, more grounded, or more aware of everything you do, even if he doesn't comment on it. His attention isn't scattered. It naturally orients toward you, like his entire field of awareness is gently leaning in your direction. This is not something he controls. It's the language of energy, an unconscious alignment that occurs when emotional connection begins to root itself beneath the surface. You start to feel his focus, not because he's performing, but because his attention naturally rests on you without effort. Sometimes you'll feel his energy reach for you before his body does. Maybe you sense him watching you across the room with a softness he doesn't even realize he's showing. Or you feel a change in the air when he enters the space, like your own system responds before you've even turned to look. This isn't about intensity or romantic theatrics. It's about resonance. His energy begins to synchronize with yours, and that kind of alignment only happens when the emotional bond is forming on a deep, unconscious level. You might also pick up on the way he responds to your energetic shifts. If you're feeling low or withdrawn, he subtly adjusts, peaking more gently, drawing closer, or checking in without fully understanding why. His body and energy field are beginning to attune to yours, creating an invisible feedback loop. He doesn't have to be spiritual or emotionally expressive to show this. It's in the way his energy naturally makes space for you, holds you, responds to you, and moves toward you without demand or expectation. That pull, that unspoken presence, is often one of the earliest and most powerful signs of love taking root below the surface. Intuition is often the first voice that speaks when love begins to form beneath the surface, long before logic has the chance to name it. When a man is more in love with you than he knows, his intuitive responses around you begin to strengthen. He may not recognize it as intuition, but he starts to act on feelings he can't quite explain. He might show up at the right time, reach out when you're feeling low, or anticipate your needs without being told. These aren't calculated behaviors. They emerge from a subconscious connection where his inner world starts to mirror yours in quiet, instinctive ways. There's a kind of emotional radar that activates when someone is developing a deep, authentic attachment. He begins to pick up on subtle shifts in your mood or energy without you having to say anything. You might be smiling on the outside, but he senses something's off and checks in. Or he knows when to give you space, when to hold you closer, when to ask a deeper question. His responses become less about reacting and more about feeling into you, tuning into what's going on beneath your surface, even if you haven't shared it out loud. This intuitive awareness shows that his subconscious is actively paying attention to your emotional landscape. His nervous system is starting to respond to yours, and he's not doing it to impress or perform. He's simply following an inner pull that guides him to show up for you, in alignment with what you're actually feeling. This level of attunement doesn't happen through effort. It happens through emotional openness, where the heart begins leading before the mind catches on. He might not be able to articulate why he says what he says or does what he does in certain moments, but there's a consistency to how accurately he meets you where you are. This intuitive connection also creates a sense of ease between you. Moments when conversation flows without effort, silences feel comfortable, and you both seem to understand each other without explanation. These intuitive signals are not just signs of compatibility. They're proof that something deeper is unfolding within him, something driven by emotional truth rather than mental analysis. His intuition is becoming a compass that draws him closer to you, even if he doesn't yet understand the direction it's pointing. When someone is unconsciously falling in love, they begin to invest more than just their time. They invest their emotional energy in ways that may not always be obvious. You may notice that a man starts to care more deeply about your well-being, your happiness, and your peace of mind. It's not because he feels obligated or because he wants something in return. It's because your emotional state begins to matter to him on a level he doesn't fully understand. Your joy becomes intertwined with his own, not out of expectation, but because he genuinely feels it. He may ask about your day, not just out of courtesy, but because he wants to know how it went. What made you smile? What challenges you faced? He might notice when something's off with you, even if it's something small, and want to be there to support or encourage you. This attention to your emotional needs comes from a place of care that runs deeper than just wanting to spend time together. He starts becoming emotionally invested in how you feel and what you need, sometimes before you even have the chance to express it. This shift in focus may not come in grand gestures, but in everyday moments. He might pick up on things you say in passing, and then surprise you later with something you mentioned weeks ago, like remembering your favorite book, restaurant, or even something more personal about your family or aspirations. These aren't just signs of good listening. They're reflections of a growing emotional attachment where your inner world begins to matter to him beyond surface-level interactions. It becomes important to him that you feel seen and valued, not just in the context of your relationship, but as an individual. As he begins to show more interest in your joy, his actions start aligning with the idea of supporting your growth and happiness. He might encourage you to pursue your goals, take risks, or find moments of peace for yourself, all without being asked. He's not looking for recognition. He's simply acting out of an unconscious drive to see you thrive. This is one of the most powerful indicators that love is growing in him. When your emotional state matters more than his own convenience, when his actions begin to support your well-being out of pure care, not expectation. This kind of emotional investment is subtle, but it's a deep sign of the connection developing between you. When someone begins to fall deeply in love, it often takes time for their conscious mind to fully catch up to the feelings brewing beneath the surface. In the early stages of this emotional shift, the person may begin to engage in behaviors that seem almost inexplicable to them, but make perfect sense when viewed through the lens of emotional connection. One of the most revealing signs that a man is more in love with you than he knows is how often you occupy his thoughts, even when you're not present. These thoughts aren't just about what you've said or done in a particular moment. They are more about the essence of who you are and how your presence is starting to shape his internal world. You might notice that he brings you up in casual conversations, even when it feels like there's no obvious reason to mention you. He might reference something you shared in passing, or talk about something that reminded him of you, even if it seems unrelated at first. This is not just memory at play. It's the subtle yet powerful influence of emotional connection taking root in his mind. The more he starts to think about you in everyday situations, the more your presence becomes ingrained in the way he processes the world. You begin to occupy space in his thoughts without effort, and you're there even when he's not consciously trying to bring you up. This mental imprinting goes beyond memory. It's a reflection of the unconscious bond that's forming between you, a kind of emotional tether that keeps you in his awareness. His subconscious is actively registering things about you, your habits, your preferences, the way you see the world. And it's not just storing facts, it's absorbing the emotional significance of you. Your presence is slowly becoming a part of how he sees and experiences life. And that process is happening without him even realizing it. He may find himself looking forward to seeing you or thinking about you, even when the two of you are apart. It's not just that he's missing you, but rather that your essence is starting to shape his internal landscape. You've started to have a presence in his thoughts that goes beyond casual interest. It's the beginning of a deeper connection, one that often catches him by surprise when he finally stops to reflect. It's a subtle but clear sign that love is unfolding within him, even if his conscious mind hasn't fully grasped it yet.